And from my opinion, I'd love to get your thoughts. I think, finance people in general do a really good job with data.
Right.
They probably got better with visuals. Sometimes we tend to be too numbers driven, as we like to call it, our wall of numbers. But in my experience, we've really struggled with the narrative. I'm going to guess
Yeah.
in general, that's probably where most people struggle with the story.
Yeah, it's true. Whenever I've done a survey of like people on a podcast or on a webinar or whatever, it's usually about 2/3 of the people, they say of those three, the data, the narrative, and the visuals, 2/3 of them will say narrative. So it's definitely, I feel like it's the area because yeah, I'm doing workshops with analysts and data science professionals and
Sure.
finance professionals. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of the audiences that I work with are very data savvy. Data is not the challenge. It's really like, okay, I've got something meaningful to share. How do I fashion it into a story that's going to really resonate with people? And so that narrative piece is definitely a core focus of what, I think people come to me for help with.
Okay. And what's involved in the narrative? Is it the trying to bring emotion into it, to get people to relate? Is it trying to
Mm-hmm.
find the right balance between facts and story? Or why do you think we struggle so much with the narrative?
Yeah, I think one of the things is that I think we've been trained for a long time to summarize our information, right? One of the things that's been communicated to us is that we need to take all of this complex information and summarize it down.
Mm-hmm.
And a summarization of a story is not a story anymore. It's a summary. And so I think sometimes we overlook the power of narrative, which is that narrative arc, right? So with a summary, we give all the important information up front, but with
Mm-hmm.
limited context, right? And limited depth. And I think what we give up in that case, the sacrifice we're making is really that engagement of the audience. So when we follow that story arc, we're basically introducing the status quo, we're kind of laying the setting. We then have some kind of anomaly that we've detected in the data, or maybe we saw sales shoot up or sales fall down or something happened, and maybe that might have even come from our audience where they asked, why did our sales go up or down? And so they've already given us our hook of our data story, right? And then from there, we then launch into the details of like, okay, well, here's what's going on. This is connected to this, and this is connected to this, which then means this, which is our aha moment. I call that the main insight of the data story. So we've kind of taken the audience through, we've identified a problem, we're then unravel, or kind of like an onion, we start peeling back the layers of the onion to then reveal an insight. And we're taking them through, we're almost like a guide. In the past, I've used the metaphor of a tour guide where, we're taking people on an archaeological dig site, and we are the
Mm-hmm.
experts. We're the archaeologists. We've been working there. We know all the artifacts and everything. And so we have some visitors who are coming through this dig site, and they're like, what's happened here? What did you uncover? And rather than showing them all of the minutia and unimportant details, we're just giving them the highlights of what's really important, and then hopefully then attaching that to action. I think that's another area. I see that on the analytics side. I don't know if it's the same on the finance side, but often I'll see a lot of analysts, they will go through that storytelling, they'll do their big reveal, and then they're kind of just throw it on the audience's laps and not do any digging into, okay, so what does that mean? What are the options that we have? What do you recommend? What action should we take? And so that's something that I encourage my book as well. We're not just stopping at, hey, introducing the insight and then here you go and good luck. No, part of the analysis process and the recommendation, the value that we add as analytics and finance professionals is actually saying, okay, so we found something meaningful here. Here's the three things you can do with it. One, I'm going to recommend, here's an aggressive approach that we can take to addressing this problem. Here's kind of a conservative approach, and then here's something in the middle. And then the audience, the stakeholders can then make a decision based on that. If we just stop at the insight and say, here's a problem, you could start a conversation, I guess, but how much will be accomplished? Whereas if you come in with the recommendations and options, that's so much more rich. It's a richer experience for the audience. You're adding more value. I think that's a real important thing that we need to, that we should be doing. And that's what a data story, a well-crafted data story will help you to do.